We have managerial news. We also have gold glove news. Yes, it is towards the end of October. And we have news also. For those that didn't know, I'm based in the UK. And there is serious news happening in the UK. We are going to have another Prime Minister. We are having multiple Prime Ministers in the space of 2 months. Absolute scenes going on here in the UK. We're going to dig into some politics, and also some Marlins managerial decisions, all on today's Locked On Marlins.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Marlins, your daily Marlins. Pratt. Don't forget to follow me, guys, of course, on Twitter at @MiamiMarlins_UK. Please subscribe to the pod there wherever you get your pods. And it's a daily pod, 5 episodes a week. And if you are watching and enjoying YouTube, hit subscribe there as well. If you are listening, there's also a YouTube channel. Check us out there. You can see me, if indeed that is your, in terms of content. Welcome to slight change of schedule. I have to call that out. Firstly, Sean Barrett back in the house. Unfortunately, we can't make it happen today. Sean's working late, and I'm going to bed early. The cold has got me sapped. Energy is low, and so I'm going to roll a solo pod. And at some point, ideally tomorrow, maybe into next week, but very, very soon, we will continue our deep dive into some of the numbers of the offensive guys within the infield. We were teasing out we were going to get into Garrett Cooper next. That is still the plan. Next time Sean Barrett is on the show, we're going to be digging into Cooper Loop. And we will be asking the question, is Garrett Cooper an everyday player? And at what position? And even for what team? That all of these questions will be posed. However, solo pod, and there is news dropping. So that makes my life a little bit easier, which is good. Firstly, let's start with Locked On Politics. For those across the pond, in the States, or even beyond, perhaps, it's fair to say you've been noticing that there's been some turbulent times with British politics in the past couple of months, couple of weeks, couple of days, it's fair to say. Nevertheless, the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, has resigned. So she has resigned, handed in her resignation, and thus, by next Friday, by all accounts, the UK will have another new Prime Minister. It was a relatively short span for Liz Truss, effectively, for those interested. And I think there's people reaching out to me. What's going on with UK politics, and why is it worse than US politics? That's always a bad sign. When UK politics is worse than US, we know there is trouble. And it is an absolute shit show over in the UK right now. The Conservative Party, of which Liz Truss sits within, and was internally elected as the next. She put forward her plan, her manifesto, and effectively all of that was shot down this week. She's tanked the economy. Everything's dead. It's dead in the water. Thus, everything that she proposed to do is now off the table and reversed because it has tanked everything. And goes out gracefully, kind of, on her sword, saying, well, if I can't deliver that, then that's not what people voted for me on. Thus, I will resign. On that point, fair play. Fair play. She made some mistakes, some assumptions, maybe went to go too quick, trying to save everyone money on the energy crisis that's going on, try to reduce some taxes. Overall, ideas, but just maybe the timing wasn't quite right or the execution wasn't quite right. Nevertheless, by next week, there will be another new Prime Minister. Here's the knock-on effect too, because there's a rule, I don't know if that's the right way of describing it, but there's any Prime Minister, once they've served, has an expense account of up to £115,000 per annum, forever. So Liz Truss, after 45 days of Prime Minister, will then forever have £115,000 per annum. That's around about, well, I mean, the dollar to pound exchange rate is almost, let's just convert that into dollars and say that's $125,000 per annum, associated with the fact that she was internally voted into this role, made some horrendous mistakes, and was effectively ousted. $125,000 forever per annum. Wow. Anyway, that's enough of locked on politics. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully it does. We're going to see what happens. There's a few interesting races here. Is Boris Johnson going to come back? Are they going to vote Boris back? What about Rishi Sunak, the previous Chancellor of the Exchequer? Would they vote him in as Prime Minister? Is there going to be someone else? Is there going to be a general election? Who knows? Who knows? What does it all mean? Who knows? How does it impact the Marlins in free agency? Who knows? I think it should be seen as a positive. I don't know how, but there's going to be a connection. I'm going to find that connection. Somehow, these events in the past few days are going to positively impact the Marlins in free agency. I don't know how, but it will. Nevertheless, guys, let's get into the news and the Marlins news. And there has been an update today, I would say. Craig Mish doing Craig Mish things. Boy, oh boy, you can never not have Craig Mish notifications on. And Craig is reporting the second round of interviews for what seems to be two leading candidates. We spoke earlier in the week about Joe Espada, and seemingly he seemed to be Marlin's Twitter favorite. And me and Sean speaking about it, I know Sean was leaning more towards Joe Madden. I had the sense that Joe Espada felt like the best fit in terms of what the Marlins had maybe specced out. And it seems like Joe Espada is going to be having a second interview. We don't know when that is. Obviously, the Astros still remain in the postseason right now. So when exactly that happens is, I guess, up for debate. The other interesting wrinkle, though, is there's a second candidate that hadn't been mentioned, at least publicly, that will also be coming back for a second interview. And it's a Rays staffer, which is interesting because, well, you know, a lot of the times when you talk about the Marlins and how can they compete, often it's pointing to the Rays. What do the Rays do? How can you be like the Rays? So after years of falling behind and trying to, I don't think the Marlins have actually tried to emulate the Rays thus far, but clearly for the Marlins and their budget and their payroll, the Rays have got something. They've shown a degree of success. They have not won a World Series, by the way. So let's call that out. They have progressed. They've won divisions. They've progressed deep into the postseason. For some, and us as Marlins fans, we'd see that as a success, but they haven't won anything. So some would say, is this a flawed model overall? It's an interesting thing. However, as we've seen in the postseason, it's just a straight up lottery. Pretty much, it still is. And so for me, if you can get to the postseason and be winning divisions on a regular basis with a payroll in the bottom third, you are doing something fundamentally right as an organization and as a franchise. And with that being said, Matt Quatraro. Oh, I can't even pronounce his name. Quatraro. That is tough to say. I don't even know how to pronounce his name. You know, when you look at something and you think that looks easy to say, then all of a sudden the camera's rolling and the microphone's in your face and you realize you have no idea how to pronounce this guy's name. I've never said his name before. Never heard of him. Nevertheless, he's from the Rays. The Rays are good. Espada, ex-Marlin. There's connections with the Marlins. And he's with the Astros. Astros are good. It makes a bit of sense here. And there was talk, it was funny, we kind of saw a bit of buzz around the Phillies hitting coach. Next thing is the Phillies offense has come alive. And all of a sudden, you know, should we dig into those staffers? It's a little bit like flicking it over to the NFL. It's a little bit like everyone is even being breathed on for a couple of years was being hired as a coach. And it's not a bad thing. These guys, they've got insight into what success and good looks like. And so with that, for me, that seems like a decent recipe. These are baseball guys. They know what they're doing. They've never managed before. So these two guys, they'll be first-time managers. Craig Mish alluded to that a few weeks back on this pod, that he expected them to be a first-time manager. It's fair to say probably the Rays guy will be a little bit more analytically driven, maybe a little bit more modern in his approach, perhaps. For me, the fit with Espada feels right. And so I'm going to put it out there that I think that is the way that the fish go. I think that in the end, when all said and done, Espada, what I did see was both of these guys were interviewed. I don't know how far they got in the process, but they were both on the Mets shortlist, I believe. Listen, the interesting thing for me with the Marlins here is the pace that they are trying to work at here. And from Andy Slater earlier saying that, I think he was eating crab somewhere in a crab shack or something, saw Kim Ang at the restaurant, went and had a conversation, Kim, what should we expect? What's happening? And she kind of alluded to the fact that things could happen soon, perhaps by the end of this month. So the Marlins are looking to kind of jump the market here, it seems. Get in there. Have they identified their guy? Yes, they have. Is he showing signs of all? Perhaps. Gut feel is that is the vibe we're getting. Probably with Espada. Joe, do you fancy it? Yes, I do. We like you. We're just going to do our due diligence, look around, check the other candidates, make sure. Overall, you're our preferred guy. Let's get a deal done. I think that's the way things are going to go right now. And I think the Marlins look to close this out. Well, here's the interesting thing. Do the Marlins get their manager in before the new prime minister is announced, not elected, but announced in the UK? That's the question. I think that's going to be next Friday. So do the Marlins beat that? I don't know if it'll link to the fact that obviously Espada is still in the postseason with the Astros. And so perhaps that will slow him, but there's no reason why they can't announce him, whilst they're still in the postseason. And, the reality is the Astros taking on the Yankees, they're one up. Good gut feel is they probably go to the World Series here at this point. The Astros are looking real strong. And, the Yankees kind of like spluttered their way through the end of the regular season, split their way through this Guardian series. Gut feel is Astros are in there. Who they face off against, bit of a coin toss at the moment. Phillies and Padres playing some fun games. I mean, the Phillies were 4-0 up, looking to take a 2-0 lead. And then next thing is the Padres come back. Juan Soto was blazed in the eyes. He couldn't see. But next thing is the Padres, their offense roars. And the Phillies end up beating, and they split that little trip over there in San Diego. So one apiece. Effectively a 5-game series now. Anyone could take that one, obviously. But yeah, I'm still liking the Astros. And as I said the other day, I like the Padres here to kind of nick this one against the Phils. I think that's maybe the way it plays out. A little bit more depth in pitching, but nevertheless. Guys, let's get into the ad. And then I also want to talk about Gold Glove candidacies. So we've talked about prime ministers. We've talked about managerial updates. We've talked about prime ministers. We need to talk about, Roan. And then we also need to talk about the Gold Glove situation going on at shortstop. No surprise there. So before we do that, it is time to let you know about our good friends over at Roan. It is. And, there's a lot to be said about these guys. And fair play, the dress shirt was due a radical reinvention. And Roan stepped up to the challenge. They stepped up big time. Roan's commuter shirt is the most comfortable, breathable, and flexible shirt known to man. And here's why. Mobility is everything. Just ask Jacob Stallings. Roan's comfortable 4-way stretch fabric provides breathability and flexibility that leaves you free to enjoy life through your commute to work to your 18 holes of golf. And looking good is easy. It's time to feel confident with a wrinkle-free shirt without the hassle. With Roan's wrinkle release technology, wrinkles disappear as you stretch and wear the shirt. It's that easy. And with Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, you'll be smelling fresh and clean all day long. And on top of that, Roan is 100% machine washable. So you can ditch the dry cleaner altogether. Saves money, probably saves the environment. I don't know. One's to like. The commuter shirt can get you through any workday and straight into whatever comes next. So if you head in from work straight to even a ball game and you want to get loose at the ball game, they've got you covered. This commuter shirt is going to cover you, no problem. You can head to roan.com/lockedon and use promo code lockedon, and it saves you 20% off your entire order. That is 20% off your entire order when you head to roan.com/lockedon using the promo code, yes, it is just a reminder, Rhone is spelled R-H-O-N-E. So rhone.com/locked-on. It's time to find your corner office comfort. Okay, so, excuse me. You can tell I'm still struggling with this cold, even still on Thursday after all those recorded episodes on Monday. Miggy Ro announced today he is a Gold Glove finalist at shortstop. No shocker. There's a few people losing their minds over some of the guys. That just maybe kind of shows you how strong the competition there is at shortstop. And obviously, there's a lot of good Lindor not on the list. I've seen Mets guys going bananas at that. One or two others, but in the end, the three guys on the list, our own Miguel Rojas, El Capitan. It's the second time in 3 years that Miggy Ro has been on the Gold Glove shortstop, the Gold Glove shortlist at shortstop. Say that fast. Joining him on there, Dansby Swanson, pending free agent, but obviously with the Braves. And Padres Kim as well is in the mix. So there's 3 guys on there. I mean, there could have probably been 6 guys on there. However, a lot of people maybe would lean to like a Dansby Swanson, big name, big team, won a lot of games, offensive production was insane. Here's the good news for Miggy Ro. It is not an offensive category. Doesn't matter. Miggy Ro could have hit 100. Did Miggy Ro hit one? I don't know what Miggy Ro hit, but anyway, he could have hit. Wouldn't have mattered for this one. This is purely on the defense and the glove. And listen, when you get those metrics out in front of you, Miggy is the clear winner. Here's why. And for me, this should be unanimous. Should be. He's got an MLB best 987 fielding percentage. So he's basically the best in Major League Baseball. Pardon me. With fielding percentage. Just 731 total chances over almost at the position. So just 7 errors in 531 chances in over, it's 1,113.2 innings to be precise. He also led National League shortstop runs saved and ranks second with a 4.9 UZR. Listen, all this combined, Miggy deserves it. And here's the other kicker too. This is the other thing. Thanks from Marlins comms with this one. This is a nice stat too. His 987 fielding percentage is as high or higher than 17 of the previous 22 National League Gold Glove awards handed out to shortstops this century. So the numbers say it. My eyeballs say it. Marlins Twitter, I'm not convinced they say it. Maybe they do. I think they appreciate Miggy Ro's defense. We all do. It's been sensational. It is, it's underrated in many senses. And this is why most teams, most other fans that don't follow Miggy and the Marlins that closely, they'll be just kind of leaning straight towards Dansby's. Like, this is Dansby's awards, right? If you eyeball Miggy day in, amazing and immense he is at shortstop. This could be Miggy's last season. It could be the way he finishes his career with the Marlins. Who knows? There's a decision to make there. Me and Sean are going to get into the numbers. Should Miguel Rojas be a starter next year at shortstop? I mean, he's about to win the Gold Glove. So, do the Marlins continue to prioritize the defense there with the pitching and try to add sticks around? Maybe they can. They could carry me. Still believe that. I don't want to segue off into this because I want to get into it in another full episode, but there's a way to carry Miggy's bat in this lineup, but you can't have 9 Miguel Rojases in terms of offensive production in this lineup. You can't. You can have 1. Maybe you've got Birdie in the 9 hole. Maybe you've got Miggy in the 8 hole and Nicky Fortes, the catcher, in the 7 spot doing some damage. Maybe. But you can't have Miggy leading off or in the 2 hole or doing whatever. Really intrigued to see the way things go. So, to summarize, and I feel like I've got another few coughs coming on, so I'm going to try to be relatively quick. Miggy Ro should win the Gold Glove at shortstop. He deserves it. He really does. I'm intrigued to see where things go for him this offseason. Joe Espada is coming in for a second interview. as well as a Rays guy that I can't even pronounce. Someone messaged me after. Someone actually sent me a voice note with the pronunciation. I just panicked. The lights were on, the mic was on. I panicked. I can't pronounce it. Nevertheless, they're going with first-time managers from clubs with sustained success. For me, it feels like a nice blueprint. Feels like they want to try and beat the market too. There's other teams that need managers. Feels like the Marlins are being aggressive early. They want to get their guy in. And rightly touched on, there's so much they need to do this offseason. So many decisions that have to be made. Starts with the manager. Let's get him in early so they can start doing their business. Start piecing together the staff. Start piecing together other front office guys. Start thinking about this roster. How do these guys see it? What do they need? Who's expendable? Who isn't? What are they going to do with arbitration guys? Tons of decisions. And overall, the UK economy, it's all in the bin. We're going to have a new prime minister real soon. Who knows what happens next? Nevertheless, we're getting out of here for Locked On Marlins on Thursday. I appreciate you making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. And joining me, Peter Pratt. I'll be back tomorrow for certain. It may be with Sean Barrett. It may not. If it isn't, you'll have me. Look forward to seeing you on Friday. See you then.